Good evening, everyone. I'd like to get this a public work session of April 5th started, if I can. First, if we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It wasn't one of that last week.
Thank you. Emergency exits are located on either side of the rear, and follow the signs to the outside from there. Before we get started with the majority of our agenda, we're going to take a few minutes and talk about the bond. We have a bond video that has been completed, which we'll be showing on the website as well as on the school channel. And first, some thank yous are certainly in order. Thank you to the school staff, whether here at the high school or throughout the district, Watson, for all the input that they provided to us to have a successful construction project. Their help has been invaluable. We have, in 2013, we had the community voted in favor of the bond. It was an ambitious project. It's still not 100% complete. There's some punch list items, many punch list items that still need to be addressed and are being addressed. But we, the TV studio here put together a video for us to share with you, and we're going to take a few minutes now and take a look. So, are we good to go?
Approving our school improvement bond in 2013, the Rockville Central School District community has enabled the school district to expand possibilities, provide greater safety, and modernize district facilities for all of our students. Every major project funded by the bond has been completed, and we are thrilled to share the transformation of our buildings with you, the community members who made them possible. We hope that you share our pride in the district and will follow the journey of our students as they soar in these new spaces. The health, safety, and security of our students were the impetus for the bond. In response to the summer heat at the start of school in early September and towards the end of the year in May and June, air conditioning was installed in all district classrooms and in the main assembly spaces at the elementary schools. All classrooms also received new door safety lock sets so that teachers can secure students inside the classroom in case of an emergency lockdown. Additional security cameras were also installed throughout the district, and a standby generator was installed at Southside High School for use in the event of a loss of power. The generator is set up to run the district phones and computer systems to ensure that communication in the district is continuous in the event of a power failure. Lack of space coupled with growing enrollment rates propelled the decision to build an addition at Watson Elementary School. The new construction, which was ready for students at the start of the 2015-16 school year, includes 3 vibrant new classrooms and small instructional spaces. The additional classroom space allowed music and art to have their own dedicated space in the shared classroom. The parking lot was reconfigured to hold an additional 19 spots, and a beautiful brightly colored playground was installed with 4 slides, a cable bridge, and monkey bars. The updated library at Southside Middle School is spacious and flooded with natural light. The new layout is open and features brightly colored furniture that is set on wheels so that students can easily reconfigure themselves for group work or independent study. This new space will allow multiple classes to visit the library simultaneously, where in the past they could only accommodate one class at a time. Visitors are astounded as they walk into the newly renovated Southside Middle School auditorium. The walls have been painted and the carpeting replaced. All of the chairs in the balcony were repaired, restoring seating to its full capacity. New lighting and sound systems were installed, allowing guests to better see and hear the fabulous performances by our students and various community groups. The restoration of the space increased its beauty, comfort, elegance, and acoustics. The North Addition at Southside High School was completed in September 2015. At that point, all but one of the portable buildings was removed, allowing most classes to be taught in the main building. By the 2016-17 school year, high school students benefited from a completed South Addition, at which time we were able to remove the final portable building. The footprint of the high school has changed significantly. In previous years, students had to travel outdoors to aging portables for many of their art classes. But thanks to the North Addition, all classes are now located within the main building. The art wing is home to 6 spacious, well-lit new classrooms with expanded workspaces and easily accessible storage areas for students to house their supplies and projects. These rooms include a new sculpture studio with 4 permanent potter's wheels, a bio art classroom, a photography lab, as well as a music studio. The new woodshop, formerly known as the Outdoor Structure Space, was modernized with an adjoining 12-station computer lab that is separated from the shop area. Adding this technology has given students the opportunity to research and design projects using computer-assisted design software, introducing our students to technology that engineers and architects use on a daily basis. Additionally, we have a 3D printer and a CNC machine which transforms student designs onto wood and other types of materials. While students still do a good deal of work by hand, they are conceiving and designing their projects using new digital technology. All science rooms have been redesigned to be spaced appropriately with dedicated lab areas. The spacious classrooms allow teachers to walk among the students, answer questions, and assist them with their lab work. Science students now have access to the latest technology, such as Vernier scientific probes, digital microscopes, and Z-Space, an immersive learning platform gifted to our district by the Rockville Center Education Foundation. Z-Space allows students to virtually manipulate and dissect objects, making learning come alive while creating an invaluable resource for physics, biology, anatomy, and more. The best thing about the new library is that there is something for everyone. The comfortable chairs give the students a space to lean back and relax for a period. The round charging table with movable ottomans allows the students to charge their devices and gather in conversation with or without their iPads. A quiet room provides a space for individual studying or homework, while the main part of the library is open and spacious and allows small groups of students to collaborate and converse. Our librarians love the new classroom, which students have compared to a college lecture hall. By doubling the cafeteria space, students are able to enjoy their lunch period in a spacious and relaxed environment. No more eating in the stairwell or hallway. Dated cooking equipment in the kitchen was replaced and the students are enjoying the new expanded serving line and snack bar. With the more efficient cafeteria, traffic at the serving lines has been alleviated, and students have more time to eat their lunch. Our athletic facilities have improved greatly over the course of the bond project. Outdoors, we installed 2 beautiful new lighted turf fields, a new press box, elevated bleachers, and concession stand to create a fabulous facility for our student athletes. Indoors, a new fitness center, outfitted with advanced cardiovascular fitness equipment, overlooks the turf field. The equipment which was funded by the Carol M. White Physical Education Program, PEP, federal grant, is used on a daily basis by both our student athletes and our PE classes. These successful additions, renovations, and upgrades will continue to enhance the future of education in the Rockville Center School District. We thank you for your support of the 2013 School Improvement Bond.
Hopefully the narration didn't detract from the tremendous work that was done by Jason Starr and Rob Lichter up here in the TV studio at the high school.
Whose voice was that? That sounds familiar.
Well, too familiar. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't thank our central administrators who, aside from their everyday job functions, took on the added responsibility of overseeing this entire project and were an integral part of how the work was done and what has been accomplished. So I want to thank them very much as well. I think we're good to move on. We're going to recognize some of our student athletes. Dr. Johnson.
Thank you. As we have done at a number of meetings recently, we have had an opportunity to highlight some of the work that's done by our students outside the school day. It is an incredible addition to the lives of these young athletes. Many of them are stars at what they do, and it gives us an opportunity from time to time to acknowledge and recognize the incredible work that they do. So I'm asking the Director of Athletics, Carol Rossetto, if she would please take it from here.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It is my pleasure to introduce the next group of student athletes and to honor them for their outstanding achievements during the 2016-17 winter season. Before I begin speaking about the individuals, I'm very proud to mention that the following winter teams were all recognized by the New York State Public High School Athletic Association as scholar athlete teams. Girls basketball, boys winter track and field, girls winter track and field, boys swimming and diving, boys wrestling, and the girls gymnastics team. So congratulations to everybody. Through a tremendous amount of hard work and dedication, both on and off season, all of the athletes that I will be speaking about tonight have individually earned all county or above honors. Just want to mention that we have many other all division, all conference, all class, too many to actually bring to a board meeting. So we're acknowledging the all county or above athletes this evening. Unfortunately, many of them are unable to attend tonight, but I still want, they're actually competing at the moment, so I do want to acknowledge their performances as well. First up, boys basketball. The boys team this season were the Nassau County Class A finalists. Both Brandon Grayson and Ryan Prendergast earned all-county honors for their outstanding play during the season, and as a result, they were named to the Nassau County Coaches Association first team and selected to play in the exceptional senior game tonight. Brandon was also named as part of the All Long Island second team. Coach Jerry D'Angelo was selected as the Basketball Coaches Association of New York Section 8 Coach of the Year, and senior Pat Basil was named as part of Nassau County's Coaches Association second team, as well as an all-conference player. So congratulations to basketball. As for the girls' basketball team, they finished their season as the conference champions, with both captains earning all-county honors as well. Jordan Thomas for her second consecutive year as an all-county athlete, and Jenna Lopez grabbing her first. In addition, Coach Dan Ferrick was named the Conference Coach of the Year. So congratulations, girls. I would now like to welcome Caitlin Moore and her coach, Chris Webster, to join me while I speak about the winter track and field team. On the winter track team, there were 3 standouts who earned all-county status. Carly Wolfill, Tyler Wukitsevich, I try every time, what he said, and Caitlin Moore. Carly completed her winter season as the county champion in the 3,000 meter and finished 3rd in the 1,500 meter event, earning all-county status in both events. Tyler was the captain this year and placed 3rd in the county high jump championships, earning him all-county status as well. And finally, Caitlin Moore, who is standing to my left. Caitlin came into the winter track and field season off an incredibly successful fall cross-country season. The highlight for Caitlin was at the county championship at the end of the season, where she finished 3rd in the grueling 3,000 meter run. Caitlin spent the entire winter being one of the top distance competitors in Nassau County and capped her freshman season with an all-county honors. On an exciting side note, Caitlin's performance in the counties also broke a 9-year school record in the 300-meter event. So congratulations. What? Oh, 3,000. I shortened that race a little bit. All right, so congratulations. Let's take a picture.
All right. Walk.
Before I speak on behalf of the wrestling team, I would like to invite Coach Mike Robinson and wrestler Kyle Mosier to join me. The Southeast Cyclones, which is a combination of Southside High School and East Rockaway athletes, would like to congratulate sophomore Kyle Mosier on another outstanding season. Kyle was the Nassau County runner-up and placed fourth in the state championships at 138 pounds this year. Kyle has been a state semifinalist for the past 3 seasons and an all-county athlete for the past 4 years since he was in 7th grade. He ended his sophomore year with 39 wins and only 7 losses, and has a career record of 146 wins and 26 losses. Once again, congrats to all-county, all-state, and freshman All-American Kyle Mosier. And if you're wondering what happened to him, during his last match, we were fighting for the world title, and I got him in an armbar. Enough said.
I guess Carol won. Any pictures taken tonight are available on the Facebook page for the district, if you didn't get an opportunity.
At this time, I would like to invite Coach Ashley Harney, Assistant Coach Kristen Erling, and gymnast Erin Agolia and Katie Rosher to join me. Erin, 2 away from me, has been on the varsity gymnastics team for the past 2 years. And throughout the season, she worked hard at practice and contributed tremendously to the team by putting up consistently high scores in the meets on the vault, the beam, and the floor. As an 8th grader, she qualified as an all-county gymnast and helped her team take 4th at the team championships. Erin finished her 2nd season as an all-county floor gymnast. Congratulations, Erin. Katie has also been on the varsity team for 2 years. She initially competed on vault and floor, but with hard work and dedication, she later became the team's only all-around gymnast this season. Katie was a top scorer on floor with a score of 9.25 against Plainview. She qualified as an all-county gymnast and also played a key role in the team's fourth-place finish in the team championships, where she also competed as an all-around and earned all-county on the floor event as well. Congratulations, Katie. And that concludes the winter athletic
No,
accomplishments.
no, it doesn't. No,
Swimming?
there's one more.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
Oh, swimming, holy Hannah, sorry. I have to turn the page.
Or is it ice skating?
It's ice skating, we have ice skating now. Okay, so before I speak on behalf of the Southbrook Boys Swimming and Diving, I would like to invite swimmers Ryan Davidoff and Colin Malooly to join me. And Coach Clark was actually coming, and I got a text about a half an hour ago. Apparently, he has the flu and he's in bed. So he sends his regards and his congratulations. So, the Southbrook 200 medley relay, which consisted of Southside's David and Ryan, and Limbrook's Dylan Brachansky and Kyle Bergen, had a great season, knocking down their combined times in this event meet after meet. This relay team broke the school record multiple times this season and finished second in the county championships with a time of 1:42.38. This relay is a perfect representation of the collaboration which has turned the Southbrook swimming and diving team into a rising program in Nassau County. In addition, in addition to Colin's all-county 200 medley relay performance, Colin individually earned all-conference status in the 50 free, the 100 free, and the 200 free relay. Congratulations, Collins. Freshman Ryan Davidoff had a standout first season, earning all-county honors in the 200 freestyle with a time of 1:46.02, and in the 500 freestyle with a time of 4:47.64. He also earned all-conference status as part of the 200 free relay and all-division in the 100 backstroke and the 500 freestyle events. His times in the 200 and 500 freestyle event this season broke both school records and qualified Ryan for the state championships in which he competed in this February. So a great first season for Ryan.
Carol, before you leave there, just for a second, people may be wondering if they heard correctly. The answer is yes, you did. Lynbrook is part of our team, and East Rockaway was part of our wrestling. Maybe you could just explain a little bit about how we cooperate and work with our other school districts?
Correct. So for boys swimming, we are merged with the Lynbrook School District, and for boys wrestling, we are merged with East Rockaway. So the combined programs help us sustain the programs. It divides the cost between the two schools, and it gives many opportunities for students that may not have the chance to swim and or wrestle because there wouldn't be enough athletes for either team. So it's the second year for swimming and the first year for wrestling, and it has been a great experience for both teams, and I'm very proud of it. And
What do we call ourselves? Rockbrook? Rockland?
There's where my advertising background came in. For the South Side Lynbrook, they are the Southbrook team, and for East Rockaway and South Side, they're the Southeast Cyclones.
Okay.
Carol, Carol, you want a chair?
Oh, we must be. Really? Yeah.
Okay, so now, I promise, the athletic portion is over. Have a great night, everybody.
What? You don't think yes, he is. Look at him. He's absolutely. Oh, yes, he is. I want to see if they would. This monkey. Oh, my God, he's like barely fixing the door.
Kids still playing.
Yeah, he's like tiny. He's so tiny.
Okay. It seems that we're left with the fringes on the ends right now. Would everybody want to move in closer? Come on in. I'm looking at empty seats. Okay, we're going to move on to items for discussion. First being the tabling of policy 7159, which is a carryover from our last meeting. And I want to take this opportunity first to clear up some possible misconceptions with what I was saying at our last meeting, and then to give other board members opportunities to say something, and as well as members of the audience. It had become clear to me during the process that we had been undergoing that the discussion and the talking that we were doing in trying to reach a point where we can move forward with policy 7159 was becoming less and less possible. And it was becoming very divisive in terms of how it was proceeding, whereas we had either people, different individuals who were against other individuals, or more importantly, we had school communities that were at odds with other school communities. And in my opinion, there was nothing that was going to be achieved by continuing that course towards that divisiveness. And rather than have irreparable harm being caused because of that, I wanted to curtail the discussion at that point so we can, in essence, reboot at a future time if there's a desire to continue. It had nothing in terms of what I was trying to convey, with nothing to do with cutting off the discussion, other than the divisiveness was not helping anyone's cause, and what I saw was a path towards greater problems, not only with the schools that were being affected, but other issues that may come down the road at a future date, which would say, well, if someone got this, well, we could get this, and there was no greater good that can be accomplished by doing that. So I didn't convey that I did not mean to convey that it was permanently off the table, or any future discussion would be off the table. It was just that I was saying that I think that there's a time where we had to disengage from the active discussion of this and give it a chance to, as I said, reboot. And if the board at some future date wishes to bring it up, if they care to, that would certainly be their prerogative to do that. So I wanted to take that opportunity to tell everyone that, and I'll now go on to if there's anyone on the board who would care to make any comments towards this.
I didn't see it that way at all. I thought it was not a vicious discussion. I thought it was a vigorous discussion. Some members from the public may have emailed the district about closing Riverside, but that was, that's something part and parcel with negotiating with things. I think we cut it very short and abruptly. I think the policy should still be on the table and talked about, or given it some definite direction. Either suspend the policy for a year to look at it, send it back to committee, But to stop the discussion the way it was stopped, I thought was wrong, and I did question the reasoning behind the stopping that way. It wasn't a board decision to stop it. It was Mr. Mason who decided to stop it, and I thought that was the wrong approach to. It was a full discussion with the community, with the committee, with the board, and then all of a sudden it was just stopped that way, left in limbo, left nowhere actually, just hanging out there. So I think we need to go forward with it, resolve the issues, suspend the policy, do something, but not just leave it hanging out there.
Anyone else?
I thank you for clearing up some of those issues, Mr. O'Shea. I agree with you. The board did not decide to stop the discussion. Mr. Mason decided to stop the discussion on the topic without my input. Mr. Mason also decided to stop the discussion, in my opinion, without the input of the committee that helped put it together. I think that was wrong. I think the discussion was healthy. I don't see anything wrong with the discussion. There was some confusion on some people's part via email with regards to the possible or the implication that the board was considering to close one of the elementary schools. I didn't see it that way. However, some of the perception that was out there was that the formula that was in the policy would eventually create that in, who knows, 10, 20, 30 years from now. I think that's what their opinion was. Not that we were going in that direction ourselves. I think my suggestion to add the stipulation was a fair suggestion, and it didn't get any good discussion out of it. It was just stopped. I would have liked to have heard from some committee members on that topic, but they weren't afforded that opportunity. So once again, I think it was wrong taking it off the table, and I feel it should be on the table.
Okay. I think first of all, the committee did a tremendous job in working very hard at examining the prior policy and trying to come up with a new policy that would be beneficial to every elementary building. I think the work they did is to be commended, and my understanding from the committee was that every building was in agreement that this was a good policy, a sound policy, and a policy that perhaps needed a bit more tweaking, but should not have, that should have gone forward. However, as the conversation ensued and the debate became a little more vigorous, as I forgot who's used that word, it became apparent that there wasn't going to be any possibility for the policy to move forward. Furthermore, the suggestion of creating a policy with an exception, in my opinion, is poor policy making. If you have one type of an exception in a policy, then you open the door for any other potential exception. And then what's the point of the policy? Because now it just becomes a framework for one exception after another. So although Mr. Spalding, you may believe that it was a good idea and a sound idea, I think it was a very poor idea. And I don't think a board should ever create a policy that's exception. It sets bad precedents, and it's not good policy making.
I think that was a little mischaracterized. I didn't say that the discussion was bad. I would have rather have had this discussion with the policy out there rather than hearing about it when it's closed and not open to discussion. Had we had the opportunity to discuss this and even talk to the committee about this, then your opinion would matter to me. But at this point, it doesn't, because we can't talk about it. We can't bring up the topic unless somebody puts the policy back on the table.
I don't know if that's true. Is that
No,
true?
it's
I don't know.
news to me.
But, I mean, I served on the committee when we created this, or as we created this policy. I thought it was a good policy. I didn't think it was a perfect policy. I don't know if there are perfect policies. I said that from day one as we presented the policy and as we worked on it. I thought it was a policy that was good. I also thought that, I agree with Mark, though. It became incredibly divisive. And the lies, I'm just going to call them lies. I don't think it was confusion. People lied. People said we were going to close Riverside. That's a lie.
How many people, Liz?
I don't know.
But
All I know,
why are we shutting down conversation because 3 people have some opinion on something?
I'm not shutting down conversation. I'm simply saying.
No, but you're agreeing with Mark that the conversation should be shut down. That's agreed.
That's not what I said. I didn't say that. I said I agree with Mark that it became incredibly divisive. That's what I just said. I thought it became incredibly divisive, and more divisive than I do question whether it was worth the divisiveness. I saw this policy as a small tool in a very large book of policies, in a large toolbox. I think it's important that we have this conversation. I think it is good to have this conversation. But I was surprised at some of the opposition. We've had this policy or some approximation of this policy for 4 years. It wasn't a brand new policy. So we've been working on it.
I don't disagree with you. I think it was a good policy. I enjoyed the policy. It saved the district money. It helped people out that needed to help to move to a different school due to overcrowding. There were many benefits to it. However, in its current form, I just happen to agree that the formula created a singular classroom environment, and I don't think that's healthy. And that was just my opinion. And I'm sorry if that created a outcry, or maybe that's what the outcry, maybe that's what I heard from the outcry of the public. I mean, I saw people in the public that were very upset over this. They were upset over the formula, and they were upset in the direction that it would have eventually gone, in their opinion, not maybe tomorrow, not next year, but maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10 years. They weren't happy with that opinion. And I tended to agree with them. The formula that was set up in there and the exclusion that I was looking to add to it, rather than just delete the whole policy, because like you said, it was a good policy, and I agree with you. But I was just looking to add the exclusion that we don't create a singular class environment.
And
I still don't see anything wrong with that.
Well,
I don't see anything wrong with that
class
going
count-
back to the committee and saying,
they
did you guys
did-
even discuss this?
We did, and we did talk about having that exclusion, and the committee specifically said that that's not fair to say one school should have an exclusion.
But the public spoke a different way, so why would we not listen to the public? Why would we just take what the committee said and what the board said and exclude what the public opinion is? No matter what, whether you disagree or agree with them, they still have the right to speak and have their opinion, and you don't have the right to say that it's no good. That in their mind or in their belief, that's what they wanted to fight, that's what they want to fight for.
Right.
It's valid for them. It may not be valid for you, or may not have been valid at the committee point, but they still have the right.
I'm not saying they don't have the right to speak. I never said that.
But you're saying that because they disagreed with what the committee came up with, we have to shut the committee down because it's getting too crazy or the comments are too negative. that's part of the discussion, I think. It'll make the policy stronger if we have the public's input on what the policy says. They're passionate about what they believe in, and they have the right to speak and not be told that it's not right, it's wrong, it's divisive. It's not, I believe it's the wrong approach for us to take against any member of the public. They have their right.
Did you see a potential solution?
No, but I asked it to go back to the committee, so maybe the committee could retool it and bring it to the public, and they might have had a different, after listening to the public comment, the committee in itself could have said, okay, well, maybe we can tweak it here, maybe we can tweak it there. We didn't even give them that opportunity.
Weren't you part of that committee?
I was, and I asked for the committee to go back together again, and I was told that wouldn't be appropriate or wouldn't be necessary because it's at the board level now. But if the board's unwilling to take on the public, then I think the committee maybe should have been asked to go back and...
But the committee discussed the exclusion.
But the
So the
public had
committee
comment
didn't-
after the committee formed its policy. They have the right, and I think we should build the policy on what the public is asking us, not just what the committee is asking us.
But I think there's also public that might feel, and in particular, we had the situation a number of years ago with Hewitt, that they tend to be on the other end of the spectrum from Riverside, and they would love to see a different type of an exception in that policy. And are you going to create a policy now with 2 exceptions? You reach
What was
a point-
what was their exception?
No, they may have asked for the exception of not
So
having...
then that should have come up at the committee, did it? If you
wasn't
discuss,
there, I can't speak
if the
to-
committee discussed the singular classroom environment, were there other things that were discussed at the committee level with regards to Hewitt?
Well, I think the issue with Hewitt was similar. They said, it was a similar argument that Riverside had. We don't want to take students away, we want you to add students so we can
No.
split our classes.
That's not similar. The effect of what's happening is similar, however, they're not going down to a singular class.
But
Yes, I agree with you, what is happening with the kids moving around and changing, whether it's 2 classes, or 3 classes going to 2, or 4 classes going to 3, is similar to 2 possible classes going to 1. But my only exception was that it's not healthy to have one singular class that we create. If it happens naturally, it happens. But I don't think the board should be in the position to put a policy in effect that's going to create that. I didn't want to kill the policy because it's a good policy. It benefits the district. But the exclusion that I came up with I thought was fair, and the fact that it addressed that singular problem. In any school. I mean, wasn't just Riverside. I mean, 10 years from now, it could be Covert. Or 10 years from now, it could be Watson. I mean, I'm just protecting that we're not artificially creating a singular class, regardless of what school it's in.
yeah, I disagree. I said, I respectfully disagree that once you put an exception in for one school, any other school is going to say, I don't want to be under this policy either.
Whatever the circumstances,
Right, whatever the
circumstance would be
Right.
for that particular exception that they would seek.
But you're saying the committee discussed the Hewitt scenario?
Committee member, do you,
Because I was
yeah.
under the
Cindy-
impression that the singular thing,
Cindy, could you come up to the microphone, please?
So you get to speak for the committee, Cindy.
So I was part of the committee as well as many of our colleagues who are here in the room. I think what the committee discussed was that every school has a different set of circumstances that could then request a different exception. So for instance, at Wilson, which I can speak to since I'm there, it would be very easy for us to say, we need an exception because we don't have enough classrooms, because we are already in the attics, as some of our, people who have come here to Wilson know. We have classrooms upstairs, literally in attic space. We use instructional space in closets. So it would be very easy for me and for the current presidents or for anyone from Wilson to stand up and say, you need to make an exception for us because we're different that way. We don't have enough space. it would be easy maybe for Hewitt to say, we have a lot of space and we welcome those people because we don't want the classes to split, or we don't, or whatever. They could make another argument. And so I think what we were speaking to was that we all have 5 different situations where each of us could come forward and say, I'd like you to treat our school differently because of this set of circumstances. So I think it was, kind of that discussion. What did come up time and again was that each of our 5 schools was looking for probably very different things out of the policy. And I think it was incredibly different to reconcile the needs of 5 different schools in one policy. In that increasing spirit, I have to agree, of divisiveness that seemed to be escalating and escalating. As a committee member, I was not sure what the answer was after hearing so much. We were getting to a point where I think the debate was being more harmful than the intent of the policy, which was to do something positive for the school district. I don't know. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public who would like to come up and say something?
I just feel that the issue of having one class in a school, I don't know if that's good or bad, and if any research has been done. I mean, there's one class now that they're going to potentially have. So is that inherently not good if you add that to the policy? That's where I kind of don't see the exception, because once you start putting exceptions in, you're going to continue to, well, this is another exception for Hewitt. And I don't see the exception working well. As far as divisiveness, I came out of those meetings as everybody was in the same place. And I don't know. I don't know where all of this at the last hour it came to. It was the worst thing in the world. So the PTA presidents were on that committee. They reported back to their schools every month. They were supposed to tell what was going on at those committee meetings, come back to the committee and say what their units wanted. And then all of a sudden now at the 3rd stage of the policy, everybody was unhappy. But we didn't know on the committee because people didn't bring
But the
that
committee is
information.
only we're only a small portion of the public. Once the public read the policy and the public had an opinion on the policy, that's where
But the committee went back at PTA meetings and was supposed to report at their PTA meetings. We had representatives from each
Right.
school to report
Right.
at the PTA meetings, find out from their PTA units what was going on, and then report it back to us so we could work on it.
I don't know
somewhere
how populated
that
are your
got
PTA
missed.
meetings, so you don't know what the population was at the meetings to talk about it. So this was the opportunity where this document went public, and it was the
Right.
opportunity for the public to come forward and say, I don't like it, I like it, I like this part, I don't like that part.
Right, no,
And
that I
that's where I
understand.
thought the discussion was cut off short.
Yes.
And
No, I agree.
and left committee members with, had research with them, and they felt they couldn't even talk about it anymore because it was shut down. That,
Right.
to me, is the wrong approach to, to solving this issue, whether to not, get rid of it or whether to amend it.
No, I
It's
think
just-
I think.
Just to go like this is not,
No, I think it should, I would like to see it seen through to completion. At some point, just looked at on its merits.
totally agree. That's
And-
what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I agree.
But
I'm
I
sorry.
don't, oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I agree that the policy should be revisited at some point in the future.
Right.
I just, as I said, felt that, like, as you're indicating, it was becoming very divisive,
Right.
and it was becoming counterproductive at that point, and it's time for a reboot. And let's take a step back, evaluate where we are, and then at some point in the future, start to see where we can find common ground and move forward.
Right.
That was, do I think that the policy is worthwhile? Yes, most definitely. But, I do take exception to the introduction of exceptions.
Right.
I am not in favor of putting an exception into this policy or that is going to detract from what the overall goal of how we should all work together towards a common goal. To me, it's counterproductive. But that's my opinion.
But that's where discussion would take us. If that's the point, if that's the direction the majority of the board came out of the discussion, that's where it should have gone. It shouldn't have just been, we're not talking about it anymore. That was the wrong approach, the wrong message to send. Even though I know you apologized today, but you took something we worked on the committee worked on for months, the public spoke about for many, many meetings, and just throw it away.
I didn't throw it away.
You, Mark, in your statement, you made it seem like that was gone. You had people in the audience were like, I can't even get up and talk about it.
Well, then I didn't make myself very clear. But I certainly was not my intention to say, okay, we are never going to hear about this again. I thought I said that we were going to revisit it at some point in the future. So I still have hopes that it can be done, but the framework of how to accomplish that, I'm not quite sure yet. Nadia, did you finish? Okay.
I was on the committee, as you guys know. I just want to be on the record. Anyone that was on the committee knew what Riverside was up against when I was there. Every time I was there, I came with emails from people. Everyone would email me, ask for this, I want this, we don't want a policy to give us one single class, because no one knows what it's like to be in a single class. It's bad enough if the chips fall where they may and we don't have children. I understand that, everyone understands it, but for a policy to make that is horrific for children in the school. And I fought it. I did agree with some things, and then it was hitting a brick wall. And at one point, during all those different meetings, I just stopped talking. And Nadia said, well, can I talk for you? And if I say something wrong, you can interrupt me. Because I just couldn't stand it anymore. Because I was like, well, no, Christine, we can't do that. Okay, we can't put in Riverside. I understand we can't put in Riverside. But I wasn't, yay, this is awesome. Okay? And I went back every time to my meetings, and I told them what we were up against. And that's why they all came out. And I warned you at the last meeting. My last words were to you, as I walked out, be prepared for a fight. Does anyone remember that? I said it. I said, because this is not, Riverside parents are going to come out gangbusters because they don't feel this policy. It's like discriminatory towards them. Okay? We want children. We don't want a policy that's going to possibly take children from us or make us to a single class where socialization is horrific. And I want to be put on record because I keep hearing, oh, we were in agreement. Yeah, okay, I don't know what meeting I was in, but I wasn't in agreement. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to say something?
You had your turn already.
I don't know, I shouldn't stay here. There are minutes to our committee meetings, and you can see if emails were given, whatever that is. You can foil it from Jackie, you can find out what happened. That, I think, should clear up for anybody who wants to know what happened at these meetings. We approved the minutes. Jackie gave them to us before the meetings. She took notes, everything.
That's, in my opinion, that's fine, but it still discounts how the public feels about it.
No,
even if
that's
somebody
different.
from the PTA came and said everybody's happy, there still could be 20 people show up.
I just don't want any misconceptions So if there's any issue with whatever happened at those meetings, just please look at the minutes. Because that's all.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Are we just leaving it the way
Well,
Okay.
right now, we will discuss this as to see what course of action we take, if any. We'll do that in executive session. Okay. Moving on to Drug-Free T-Shirt Day. and I didn't wear my T-shirt because I have a tie on today. I want to make sure.
We have some guests here tonight that are going to join Dr. Leahy in providing us an explanation of exactly what all these T-shirts are all about. So,
That's right.
Dr. Leahy, please.
We're rocking these T-shirts. So, coincident to our primary mission of educating kids is what I believe is our essential mission, our duty to keep them safe. And the evidence that we do that, it can be seen all over the district, and not the least of which is the formation of committees and subcommittees like the Drug, Alcohol, and Violence Prevention Task Force. In recent years, the work of the district's task force has been re-energized and intensified. And that's for good reason and for very bad reasons. I'm going to start with the bad. Because while the task force goes about the business of educating and making more aware students and their families about the dangers of substance use, the kids are getting really mixed messages. For example, there are 26 states that have very, very broad laws legalizing marijuana in many different forms. 3 others are soon to follow. 7 states have broad laws legalizing recreational use. And one of those is Colorado. So let me tell you how Colorado's doing. In Colorado, they rank number 3 in the number of drug users in high school, number 3 in the nation, marijuana users, 54% above the national average. Their college users are number 2 in the nation. Law enforcement is bemoaning the change in that law. And so one of the duties of our task force is to try to fight for New York to keep that off its books. It's no good. Heroin has basically taken up residency in suburban Long Island. Heroin use has increased dramatically over the last several years, and heroin-related deaths has increased. I heard a number of 472 last year. The fastest growing group are children or young people below the age of 21, our kids. So that's no good. The abuse of prescription painkillers has increased by 33%. Even though New York passed a law to implement iStop, which is basically a computerized way of stopping doctor shopping and finding numerous doctors to write prescriptions for them. It sounds like a good idea, except that because prescription pills have become less available and more expensive, kids and users are turning to heroin. It's no good. So those are the reasons we're energized, for negative reasons. But there are positive reasons, and that is that we have partnered with many wonderful subcomponents of this village. The police department, our houses of worship, our athletic programs, our treatment centers, St. Agnes School, our youth council. And 2 years ago, there were some concerned citizens that got together, and those people were actively involved with our youth council at the time, and they provided the necessary leadership to apply for a federal grant. And they won it. And it's bringing $625,000 over 5 years to Rockville Center to fight substance use. And I think most of you have heard that news. And what that has done, it's created a fire in the belly of everyone that is now part of the Rockville Center Coalition. And what they did is they brought all those groups that I mentioned, including our school district, and brought all those sectors together into this one coalition. So the other night we had a meeting, and there were about 20 of us, 25 at this meeting, and we were sitting around brainstorming, talking about new events, debriefing our last presentation. And I thought to myself, there is a comfort, there's a familiarity among us. There's a team spirit in doing this work. So I asked the board and Dr. Johnson to allow me to give a couple of the leaders of that coalition a moment or two to talk to you about the Rockville Center Coalition and the Rockville Center Youth Council. Jean Mulry and Andrea Connolly and Ruth Ann McCormick are here from the Youth Council and the Coalition. And LaToya Lamb is our social worker, and she's our, what's known as our drug abuse social worker, meaning that she is tasked with leading the education campaigns across the district. And she's going to talk to you a little bit about Drug-Free T-Shirt Day. Jean, want to come up and start with the Coalition?
Yeah, you want to start, actually, Youth Council came before the Coalition.
Sure, come on up, Andrew.
Hi,
Hi, good evening. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. My name is Andrea Connolly, and I am the current and proud chairperson of the Rockville Center Youth Council. However, I am not the founding chairperson of the Rockville Center Youth Council, and that distinct honor goes to Beth Hammerman, who, through her vision and dedication to the community, realized that there was an issue in about 2009 and realized that we needed to do something more for our youth. And working with the school district, she was able to form this youth council, and we have a three-pronged mission. And one is to provide safe alternative social functions for our teens. That would be 9th through 12th graders that live in Rockville Center regardless of what high school they may go to. So once a month, the kids come up with an idea that they think would work on a Friday night. We usually do it about 9:30, goes to about midnight. Prime time to get these kids off the streets. It's safe, it's drug-free, it's alcohol-free, it's risk-free. And they come up with the ideas, and we do whatever we can to help implement them so that your children can have someplace safe to go and have fun. We also do a lot of community service, and this is where the kids, and this is what I enjoy the most, is that the kids really have an intense desire to give back. I truly believe that a lot of these kids, from my dealing with them, I've been with the Youth Council now since about 2010, and I cannot tell you how these kids really do want to give back, and I credit you because they have to get it from their home and the environment that's created within the community, because we all do come together, and from the school system that then continues to support that. And it transfers back and forth, and these kids come to these meetings and they're like, I really want to go back and do this, and I really want to do that, and we got to start, and we just got to go in front of King Cullen and collect all this stuff and bring it to Bethany and do this. They're there. And I'm telling you, it is truly, I really wish everyone would just come, because it's so infectious. But when you walk out of there, you're like, all right, I'm now doing this, because that's what the kids want us to do. And then the third prong is social action. And a couple of examples of the things that the Rockville Center Youth Council Incorporated has done is, remember that huge billboard last year? Was it last year? That was right outside of the rec center about the social host law. And we create all these signs, and we have the sticker shock, and the kids, we have a shirt, and the kids come up with anything and everything that they can come up with to spread the word about decreasing use, increasing awareness. And I think it's actually going beyond that now. I think with the way we've been networking, and including all the different sectors now with the incredible gift of the coalition, thank you, Jean Mulry, is that we now have opportunity to go way beyond what we were. And where we actually have working with Confide and having people come in and actually talking about the realities of what drug addiction is, what happens when you drink, having Matt Bellis come and speak and talking about what happens to your brain when you drink. Well, look at this. And then giving real life situations. And the kids sitting there, and through his humor with the underlying tone of knowledge, they get it. And I think it's not going to, as we all know, it's not going to happen overnight. It's a process, and a process takes time. But when we all come together like this, I actually do get goosebumps, and not just because I'm freezing, but when we all come together like this, I cannot tell you the evolution of the Youth Council from the start with Beth Hammerman, and the genesis of this is, I am so thrilled where we are now. We have grown exponentially in terms of our base of membership with the students, and how nice to like walk through the streets and like, oh, you're the Rockville Center Youth Council? Yeah, we know all about you. My kids love coming to your meetings. My kids love the social functions. It's so rewarding. It is so rewarding. And even things like, and if I'm going over time, just tell me. I talk a lot. Is like, I even went into King Cullen one day to get supplies for one of our social functions, and the manager, he sees me, I'm getting 10 things of water, and he's like, what's this for? I said, oh, it's for the kids. Like, help her, get her whatever she needs, bring I was like, oh my God, thank you. Like, people can't do enough. And I think all you have to do is really ask, because the worst that can happen is someone will say no. And I have to tell you, in all my years that I've been working with all these amazing, wonderful people that are too many to mention, no one's ever said no. And I think we need more involvement, because what this is doing is, what the kids get from it, and the kids have told me this, is the ability to voice what they believe in. And it's risk-free. They're empowered. and they're given this motivation to say, wow, like I just came up with an idea, and a grown-up, the scary people are like, yeah, we can do that. Sure, let's do this. Let's work together. Let's brainstorm. Let's come up with it. And the Rockville Center Youth Council is an amazing institution of inspirational children that inspire me on a daily basis. And now that we have the coalition where we can now join, it's like a think tank. It's limitless. And I just want to say thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Jean Mulry, and I've been working with Andrea and Beth Hammerman since 2009. Andrea, as you can tell, is the fun person, and I'm a recovering lawyer, so they put me to work. But yeah, so we took this idea and we made it into a reality. And the Youth Council is a not-for-profit New York State corporation. The board members are adults. The officers are students, your kids. They're officers. They're president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. So we had this in place. We're a not-for-profit charity. And a couple of years ago, Long Beach Coalition reached out to us because the federal government was looking to empower communities to expand coalitions. So since we had this freestanding not-for-profit corporation, we were eligible. But we were very kid-oriented, and, when we had community members involved, but we looked around to see where can we find this thing that is a coalition. And we found it in the school district, and we found it with the Drug and Alcohol Task Force, because they had already brought together so many different segments of the community. So what we needed to do, so we banded together with Noreen and with the Drug and Alcohol Task Force, and we are required to have 12 sectors of the community. And we had, I think at that point, maybe 8 sectors of the community. So we just reached out and we brought in new sectors that wanted to participate, but maybe hadn't been actively participating in either the Youth Council or Drug and Alcohol Task Force. And then we put together a plan. And where did we get the data that based this plan? Well, the school district was already engaged in this. We worked with Naomi Bisk, and now we worked with LaToya Lamb, because they had already been doing what you needed to do to find out what's going on in the community with your kids and with, drug abuse and with perceptions of risk and alcohol abuse. Because they had been, for years, giving the kids a survey, a pride survey, a youth development survey, that really pulls valuable information from the kids about where the problem spots are. So we worked with the Long Beach Coalition, and we administered that survey a couple of years ago, and we got the data. And the data, is incredible, because, the ninth graders, maybe 10 to 15% have used alcohol in the past 30-day period. 12th grade, 70 to 80%. Binge drinking high. So we worked with the Long Beach Coalition, we put this together into a 100-page federal application. And we put together a plan, like how can we address this, and some of the things that Andrea was talking about, raising awareness. And we piggybacked on a lot of things that the school district already was doing. When we went into, some of these, we've been actually trained nationally, myself, Ruth Ann, Andrea, and LaToya, we've all gone to these national conferences paid for by the grant, because that's what you want to do. And we would talk to them about the wellness fair. And the wellness fair, unbeknownst to us, it developed over years. This is like cutting edge, awareness programming that people wanted to hear about from us. How many people do you have coming to your wellness fair? How many community organizations? And I'm like, hundreds, and 30 to 40 community organizations, it's unheard of. Like what we already had here in Rockville Center is a model for the rest of the United States. And when we go to some of these conferences, they're amazed. So we're in the second year of our 5 years. After 5 years, we have to reapply again. But what have we done with the funding? Like I said, when you have a parent presentation, the school district doesn't have to pay for it. We'll pay for it. We've also hired she's really full-time, but she's only technically part-time, but Ruth Ann McCormick, and she's really boots on the ground. She's the person every day. She works with LaToya at the high school. She works with Art Rosenthal at Confide. She reaches out to the religious organizations. She reaches out to and helps get everybody's ideas together so we can be relaxed and come up with, and not only come up with the plan, but actually actively enforce the plan, to make sure that the plan gets done. And it's a 25-page plan, and we have to do a progress report. In the past 2 years, we've completed 90% of the plan. So, and it's really because of the basic structure that we've had, so that we're very happy to have with the school district the enthusiasm of the Rockville Center Youth Council and all the work they do. I mean, the fact that there's a freestanding community youth council is, again, something that, people they want to pick our brains and figure out how we did it. So we're very happy. It's a very close partnership with the school district. What I've seen is how much care the administration, the teachers, the social workers like LaToya, and the parents have for their kids. I mean, our job is to make sure our kids are safe and to make sure that they have the knowledge in order to resist the dangers. So thank you to all of you. Thank you to Noreen, who is fantastic, and thank you to LaToya, and thank you again, board and school district.
LaToya, I just want to, this is LaToya Gamble now. She's Sadie married lady after 1 month, so.
Thank you. So, what do we do to kind of incorporate all of that, which is pretty much is why we have the shirts on today. So the sole purpose of the Drug-Free Teacher Day is to promote a drug-free lifestyle among children and adults. So simply, we all kind of connected the dots and worked together on this initiative. It is a public representation that the individual wearing the shirt is taking a stance and or has a desire to be drug-free. It is also the start of the kickoff for Alcohol Awareness Month, which is what the SAD and Youth Decide clubs are doing in the high school. And this idea came as the idea of the contest came as a fun way to spread the message to get students involved and start the discussion on what it is to be drug-free. So the shirt was actually designed by a 9th grader at Southside High School, Zachary Goldberg. The SAD Club, the Youth Decide Club, the Coalition, the Youth Council came together, and we're just kind of continuing on with the routine, I guess, of creating this drug-free lifestyle. So a little bit about Youth Decide. It's a peer group devoted to being drug, alcohol, and tobacco-free. So we provide education through presentation. Recently in March, we went to the high school, the middle school, to kind of also promote that message as well, talking to the middle schoolers. And the SAD is Students Against Destructive Decisions, and the club mission is to provide an education to its members on a variety of teen topics. And although the use of drugs and alcohol is a primary focus, other topics covered include, but are not limited to, dating violence, teen pregnancy, and things of that nature. And we had a number of events throughout this year. So it's a lot, but we're doing what we can.
Thank you very much. Bottom line message, if you hear about one of our presentations, please come and bring a friend.
Noreen, can I'm sorry to interrupt. I went to the town hall meeting, and if you went, you would be as terrified as I at the at the problem that Rockville Center faces. It's a very bad problem for our youth. Some of them feel like they're trapped. If you speak to some of the speakers, they have gone through the program, and just a general consensus from the people that I spoke with. There are many issues where you fall into drug use or alcohol use, but a lot of it is the parents didn't seem to care. They weren't there. They didn't ask, where are you going? What are you doing? And who are you with? So that's what I'd like to, reach out to everybody. Ask where your kids are going. Ask what they're doing. It's so important. They almost want you to do it. They almost need you to do it to help them not go that path. Because one comment that somebody made, every pot smoker and heroin addict have one thing in common. They started with that beer. That one beer that they drank in their friend's basement or over the bridge in Hempstead, at Hempstead Lake State Park. And that one beer, who many parents in the district feel that's the rite of passage, that could send your child off the deep end. It doesn't always. I'm not saying every child, but the possibility is there, and you should all be a little nervous. You should be very nervous. It's the most valuable thing to all of us, our kids. Just to let that go is such a scary thing. And if you don't know where they are or who they're with or who they're communicating with, it's just there. It's just easy for that to happen. And if you think it's not there, go to one of these things, because the kids that have gone through it all are so open to talking to parents, because they don't want it to happen to, they don't want it to happen to our children. They're free with what they say. They're free with why they went there, or how easy it was to, to have that one beer and then have the joint and then go further and further down the line. So I urge everybody, ask your kids where they're going, who they're hanging with. I have a pet peeve of the bridge going over to Hempstead Lake State Park. Don't let them go there. Nothing good happens there. It's not a fun social occasion. It's a peer pressure, drink, smoke pot, do crack, everything happens there. It's not, some kids say, oh, everybody's going there, it's fun, all my friends are there. It's a dangerous spot for our kids to go. So I urge you all, please don't let it happen to your kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the New York State testing. I'm just going to very briefly bring us up to date. I think most people in the room know, so I will be very, very brief, that the New York State testing program for grades 3 through 8 takes place during the month of March and April. We begin with an English language arts test that is done in over a period of 3 days. Each day, students are provided an opportunity to sit for an exam or a portion of the exam that takes somewhere between approximately an hour and a half each day for each of the 3 days. The math portion of this will take place later in April, and this will be for grades 3 through 7. There is an exception made to children in Rockville Center because all of our students take the algebra exam, which is not given again until late in June. This year, we had approximately 1,633 children enrolled in grades 3 through 8 for English language arts. We had 1,019 of them opt out of the exam. That represented approximately 62.4%. It was just about 2% higher than it was last year. We will get no scores back, obviously, for them. The information that is collected on our students who, in fact, did sit for the exam should be available sometime during the summer for the use of the school district and for the opening of school next year. So we're not quite sure what that will look like. And as many of you know, we do not, and we're not supposed to be using the data for any other purposes, but we do share it with the community. So I don't know if there are any questions or concerns that the board may have about the administration of the tests, but...
No.
Oh, did we see a growth in the, I know last year we saw a growth in the opt-out rate as the days progressed. Did we see any change this year?
There were only, I think there were a total number of 8 more kids and that was district-wide. It was only, we were about 1,010 and we ended up with 1,019. So 8 or 9 kids, that was it. It was a very, very small number in the growth. However, one of the more interesting phenomenon is that even though we have an average district-wide of 62.4%, in third grade, 52.9% of the kids opt out. In grade 8, it's 76.2. So there's a wide variation from grade to grade, and it escalates with each year that kids are in the system. So it goes from 52 to 53 to 61 to 65 to 65 to 76, from third through 8th grade. It's very common on Long Island. I think many of you have read Newsday, and that the average across the island is over 50%.
Dr. Johnson, I had a few parents ask me, is it bad to let my child take the test on the first day and then give them permission to opt out day 2 or 3?
I don't think it's bad, but what happens is they do get a score, and we
don't use the score.
We don't use them anyway, so it doesn't matter.
But the score will...
There will be a score.
Yes.
It'll be a partial score, but there will be a score.
Okay. Moving on then to Common Core Math Regents.
Yeah, this is one of those things that has been an ongoing concern for this administration, and I have addressed it at many board meetings. It's my understanding that it's coming again to the fore here in Rockville Center, as it is statewide, by the way. So this is a conversation which is taking place not only here in Rockville Center, but in fact throughout New York State, because it affects an entire class of kids who are going through the system right now. For us, it involved, in the first year, in 2015, our 8th grade students who took algebra. Now, in many districts throughout New York State, most districts throughout New York State, that 2015 algebra administration was for them as 9th graders. So we're talking about a group of, in our district, sophomores, but in many kids throughout the New York State, they are now juniors. This very same group of kids took an exam in 2016 in geometry. It was the first time that kids had to take the Common Core exam without the opportunity to take a second exam along with it. And so kids who took it in 2014 and 2013 had an opportunity to take not just one exam, but 2 exams that year, and in fact get the higher of the 2 grades. This was the first time out of the box. It was discovered that the distribution of converted scores, now the way in which standard scores work in New York State is there is a raw score. You can get approximately 80 points on an exam. You get a raw score. It's converted to a scale of 1 through 100. The passing rate throughout New York State for those kids from year to year did not change significantly. What changed significantly was the distribution of raw score conversions to standard score conversions in the 75 to 100 range, so that kids ended up with very depressed scores on what would ultimately be the number that will arrive on their transcript. So if we kind of jump forward to the issue and why we're sitting here and talking about this today, it's not because we have just a piece of information that we have available to us. This actually is a piece of information that the state requires us to place on a kid's transcript. Now, why is that important? Well, there are 2 pieces. It's really a 2-pronged problem. Problem number 1, which is something that we can resolve here at the local school district, really has to do with the incorporation of the score into a grade, which appears on the transcript. It is something that we can manage, we can control. I can tell you that Mr. Murphy, Mr. Pelletieri, and I have been working on this for the last 2 years. We have been prepared to, in fact, make adjustments to any of the scores that kids would get in order to minimize or zero out the impact that this would have on a student's grade, so that it cannot depress their grade in any way whatsoever. We've been waiting on the state. We were given information to suggest that the state all along was in fact taking under consideration a variety of different ways in which they might be able to modify that, and then ultimately they said they couldn't. and pushed it back on the school district and said, if in fact you want to take care of that problem, it's your problem, you do it. So we will. We're going to take care of that. The second problem, however, is one which is a little bit more complicated and more difficult for us to resolve. And it is the fact that on the transcript there is a second number. It is just not the grade that you get for algebra or geometry. It is the fact that you get a score. You can take multiple times an exam. The highest you have to put on that transcript, one test result. It needs to be there. We don't have that choice. That's part of what New York State says we have to place on the transcript. So we do. There's the problem. Here are kids from New York State who are competing with the rest of the world, and you get this anomalous number that sits out there, which is inconsistent for the most part with all of the other grades that appear on the transcript. How do you provide an explanation to colleges and universities and the people who are, in fact, reviewing these transcripts and making a determination as to whether or not student A or student B should, in fact, be admitted? And you have this piece of information there. What do you do with it? So what we've been trying to do is to work with the state and see if we can't come up with a satisfactory resolution to this. I've been working with the psychometricians who, in fact, did the work on the original distribution of scores. They corrected it in year 2 so that your children's brothers and sisters who took it the year after in 2016 had an entirely different set of scores assigned, even though the test was equated with the 2015, which meant that the level of difficulty of the questions was the same. The difference was that the distribution of scores was different, so that the 2016 distribution looked just like the old distribution and very unlike that distribution that appeared in 2015. How is that fixed? Right now, we've been told that cannot be fixed psychometrically, and that the only way in which we can fix it, and we have underway right now discussions because, quite frankly, our kids will be juniors next year, and it will appear as a problem for them beginning next year. Many of the kids in New York State, however, who took it in 9th grade in 2015, have that problem right now. Some of them sit right here in Rockville Center, by the way. Not many, because it's our 8th grade cohort that take the Regents algebra in 8th grade. So all I can say is that this is under active review by the Regents. I can tell you that the Regents are very much aware of this problem, that the State Education Department, including the Commissioner and her deputies, are very much aware of this. They've gotten information back from other quarters of New York State, not just from Rockville Center on Long Island, and they are looking for a way in which they can create or help us create transcripts that do not put New York State students at a disadvantage. They are aware, just the way in which I'm describing it to you, they are aware of the problem for all New York State kids who took the exam in 2015. So I kind of hope that it's a short-handed version of a very complicated problem with a variety of different dimensions. I just need to assure you that literally not a week or a month goes by that we're not facing and doing something about trying to remedy this situation. So.
Okay, first, is there any board member who would like to ask any questions about this? Or the New York State testing, just between the two?
I think I'll just let the parents ask the questions.
Okay. If anyone in the audience has any questions on either of these two topics, please come on up. Give us your name, please, and ask away.
Hi, I'm Alana Bender. I believe you all probably received my email that I sent this week. I think all the rest of the parents here are 10th grade parents because this issue came back to light. It never died. It's always been on our minds. It's come up at every PTA meeting, in the middle school, at the high school, pretty much. I go to every meeting and I make sure it comes up or doesn't die, and I know Dr. Johnson is always thinking about it. It's come to light that our kids are getting older. I just had to get my daughter's transcript last week for, she's a very smart girl, as all of our kids are, and her high 90s average looked, when I saw her transcript, to see that 70s algebra Regents grade on it looked alarmingly, was glaring at me. And I really, and when I had a whole spiel written, but Dr. Johnson did touch on a lot of points, but it's just, time is of the essence. I mean, it came to light that we were all supposed to email the Board of Regents, New York State. My daughter and I both emailed everyone, got on the phone, spent hours and days, and she probably more than I did. And but then it came to light that the decision lies on the Board of Ed. And we found documentation that in September of 2016, that New York State gave the power to the districts and the Board of Ed to make these decisions about what to do with these grades. And since June of or whenever the grades came out, since 2015, other districts, other local towns that we can name a few, and I'm sure there's others, and some of these parents teach at those districts, some of these towns have already solved the issue. And we're almost 2 years later still wondering what's going on. And believe me, our kids are needing the transcripts sent out today. I already had to send my daughter's 2 transcripts out to 2 places, to an engineering program or pre-college programs, things. These are smart kids. They need their transcripts now. Some of the sport kids are going to be sending their transcripts, early. And we can't wait for them to graduate. We can't wait till they start applying to college. We need them now to be solved, the problem. And believe me when I tell you that these kids, there were different standards set to different for the kids. It was different standards. Kids got different tests. Kids were taking 2 tests. One was exceptionally easier than the other. Our kids were not given that choice in this district. And the conversion charts, just as Dr. Johnson was saying, a score in 2015, say, I know from my daughter, her 77%, which was, I believe, a raw score of 60-something, turned out to be a 77%. The year later, had she been, a year later, that score would have worked out to be an 85%, which is not that horrible, which maybe I wouldn't be making this awful, anyway, it just, the kids were held to a different standard. They worked their tails off. The teachers worked their tails off, teaching them what they knew and what was in the curriculum, and then to get these tests, and every kid were faced with information that was not, with material, brand new material, unfair material, trigonometry on the algebra Regents, and calculus on the geometry Regents, if I remember correctly. And it was just completely unfair, and it's a disservice to these kids who work their tails off. We're talking, a lot of these kids are at like 97, 98, 99 average students. And before weighted, and yet they've gotten their 60s and 70s on these algebra Regents and geometry. I don't want to forget that geometry Regents, because they did it again to this class. And so, anyway, I'm going to let Melissa McGowan speak. I do have so many other things to say, but I really want to get to any of the parents that
Do you mind if I
want to
just
speak.
ask a couple of questions? Would you, first of all, I don't know, we created a website, actually an email address that I had set up for Roger Tillis through BOCES, and
I did email them and spent the time on the phone with them.
Do you mind if I share what you recently sent to the Board of Education with them now? I think we have to kind of raise the ante right now, and they need to understand that this is a problem that needs to be solved right now.
Yes, that's why we are here.
All right, now,
these parents.
I understand that, but this is not a Rockville Center problem, and let me just explain again. The one problem we can fix is the grade problem, and that's going to be fixed. I apologize because I was unaware that it needed to be fixed right this minute. I was looking at fixing it either certainly by the opening of school in September, and we're still on track for doing it by then. And quite frankly, some school districts have it fixed. They know what the formula is, but they haven't applied it yet. And so I'm very well aware of what you're talking about with regard to other school districts, because it consistently comes up in conversations that we as superintendents have countywide. So I know what the formulas are, I know what the different remedies are, I know how they're going to be applied, and other ones probably we're going to use here in Rockville Center. We'll take care of that. I'm not sure why we need to do it today. That's something that you and I can talk about, and why sophomores would be sending out transcripts at this point.
You do need to, for any summer programs that have educational, internships at Adelphi and Stony Brook. My daughter's applying for pre-college programs for the summer. She needs to send out her transcripts.
Right. I'd be more than happy to put an asterisk by that number and provide some explanation to it if in fact you felt it was going to damage their chances of being selected to participate either in a summer program or into some kind of an internship. I have no problem with that if in fact that would provide some assistance.
I just would feel better if I know that there's a definite date and a soon date that it's going to be fixed, and not every kid applies to college at different times. Like not every kid, but I mean, there are the sport kids that are already applying, and or have to send transcripts out, and I just am not comfortable with a little wording on the region saying this is.
Well, we need to understand something. That first of all, the number that you're talking about is in fact the region's grade. I can't do anything about that. Only the state can do that. So that's the number that I just tried to say to you.
Right.
Is the problematic one that we're facing right now. And we need to join together in making sure that our voices are clearly heard by the regents and the State Education Department. And they need to fix that. The other grade is one which I can tell you that the difference between the score with or without the exam in it, and we've done the calculations, on average is 1 point.
And that's
So
significant.
Pardon me?
Yeah, you go ahead on that one.
Hi. How are you, Melissa McGowan? How are you? It seems that most of us are on the same page. There are two real issues here. Issue one is how to address the 2015 algebra region. What Alana mentioned briefly was the double standard, really. Some school districts gave the old and the new test based on the December 2014 memo that came out, halfway through the school year saying, look, the New York State's going to provide one more year of a safety net, you could take both. Some schools took both, some schools didn't take both. As we know, Rockville Center only offered our children the new Common Core regions.
Right.
Now, Rockville Center was not the only school that didn't offer both.
Wait, can I just step in on that one right away?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, because I need to address this. There were 6 school districts in Nassau, in the state, all of them in Nassau County, that sent off, and I will tell you, did so wrongfully. They were never, the state did not overturn the exams. They allowed it to happen, and I don't know why. But anybody who checked with the state, and Mr. Pelletieri checked with the state, were told unequivocally by the people in the state that we were not permitted to administer the exam. I don't want to give you this. I know all of the superintendents. I know the 6.
Can you name the 6 districts that did it?
Pardon me?
Can you name the districts?
Yes, I can.
Please.
Syosset, Locust Valley, Oceanside, Malvern, I believe it was Oyster Bay and Locust Valley.
And Jericho.
Oh, I'm sorry, and Jericho. That is right. Now, on what basis they did that, I have no idea. They just did it. At the end of the day, there was a huge hue and cry by virtually every other school district in the state crying foul, because they did something that no one else was permitted to do. Now, I won't say they got away with it, but they got away with it. They did it. The scores were never overturned. Anybody who sought permission, and I can show you all the documentation that we have that said that we're not permitted to do that. And quite frankly, I don't know if you have it with you tonight, Chris, but I know that it came up earlier in conversations. in anticipation of questions about it today,
It's been hanging on my bulletin board since 2014, because I always sense that this is a big issue at some point, and it's going to come back to us. So
Yes.
it is stuck on the bulletin. I took it down today to show you. We had explicit direction from an instructional math specialist up at State Ed that said you could not do that unless your students were involved in some prior course of study of algebra before September 2014. And our kids began algebra in 2014, that year, September of that year, which was why we and the many other districts other than this handful were explicitly directed to not take that test, not offer that second test.
so I wish,
But now, to that effect, Belmore Merrick, we know, did not give both tests. The week or so after the test, they sent out a letter saying that that score would be removed from the transcript. Now, you alluded to fixing, like I said,
well, it can't be removed from the transcript.
What?
It cannot.
No, from their GPAs. You alluded previously that on a local level, look, on a global level, I think it's great that we try to affect a change with the conversion chart. If we could do that moving forward, that'd be great. But on an immediate level, the parents here, we want to see that score be removed from their GPAs, which
Look,
you alluded
wait,
to that we
can I-
could do at a...
Here's why I'm not going to do that. Very simple. We can zero out the impact that this has on the average, but we are not going to remove it from the GPA. And the reason we're not is that, and the reason, by the way, and Belmore Merrick did not do that. There's only one, what?
My cousin's children go to Merrick. I happen to be on the phone.
I would love to see the letter, but
They sent a letter out this summer after and said, we're going to remove that. And she said, oh, this is so strange. They just sent a letter. They're going to remove the algebra regions out of their GPA. Obviously, it can't come off the transcript. It has to be on there.
Right.
However, the letter that was sent to them said it will be removed from their grade point, from their overall average. I just happened to be on the phone when she opened the mail and said,
All right,
oh, this is
And
great.
there's a 10th grade
So
parent
that-
also who works there. We've
look, here's why we're not going to do it statewide, and there's unanimous agreement to this, because we don't want to trash the Regents program. We want it to become an integral part of the instructional program. Right now, it's used as a final, as you know, in virtually every coursework. If we begin to pull it out and not use it as part of the final average, what we are doing is diminishing the entire Regents program, and we're telling kids, whether you believe it or not, we are giving the message to kids statewide that the Regents don't matter. Don't worry about it. Don't even bother taking it. So what I'm trying to say to you is there is a second way to do this.
Okay, so what's you...
And I can tell you that...
Hold on, one person, please.
We'll fix it. And it will have exactly the same impact of pulling it out, which means that we can know what the average would be without it. If I put it in and find out that it would lower the average, I can make sure that the average stays where it was.
And how would that occur? What mathematical formula, how would that work?
I don't have it in front of me. What it does is it deals with the weighting of the information from the Regents into the final average, so that the average that your son or daughter would have is not going to be altered by the introduction of the Regents exam into that average.
So you'll apply weighting to the score.
And that's what most of the school districts are doing.
All right, so, well, I'll tell you, I am a little concerned.
Why would you be concerned?
Well, no, I just want to make sure that when we leave here, we're all on the same page in that. So Rockville Center won't remove the score, but the GPA will be calculated as though the score isn't in it, but the score will remain, and you will apply whatever formula. So for every child, it's going to be...
It's not going to lower the grade. It will not be used to lower a grade.
Lower the GPA.
So that I have to make sure that kids take this exam seriously. I'm sorry.
The issue with this exam is children in neighboring school districts had a different exam. And whether you want to agree with the state, whether you want to...
No, they didn't have a different exam.
They took two exams.
They took two.
Whether you want to say that the memo from 2014 that you know I gave you a copy of, I had it, I read it. If you want to say when the superintendents of Jericho and Syosset were quoted in Newsday, that they were misquoted, that they did not reach out to the state, my district, Malvern, if you want to say that we did it somehow in error, I don't know how that would work because all the scores go to BOCES to be certified prior to going to the state. So clearly somewhere it was allowed or would not have been done. But the children should all be judged the same way. Also, the scores are going out at the same time. So to say that it's going to take away from the Regents exam, when you sat here and gave a lovely, really a speech I wish everybody would listen to as far as how unfairly the students were given on a conversion chart, how can we say to kids, other kids took 2, but it wasn't fair and they kind of snuck that in. The conversion chart isn't fair, but the test is important, so we're leaving it in. I would need to see really before I think all of us, you did say that you would take care of it, and we want to see that happen. I think we're going to need to see somehow specifically how that would work. Because to adjust every child so that their average isn't hit would be a different mathematical formula, right?
No, if I pull it, either way, you have to go back and recalculate the averages.
And
Okay? If I decide to take it out, if we decide to take it out, it still has to go back and be recalculated. We did that. And I can tell you what the average is without it. So I can show you what those averages look like without the exam in and with the exam. All right? If the exam is in, but it lowers the average, they get the higher of the 2 averages. Very simple. You could do it yourself.
Okay, absolutely.
You could just sit down. You can sit down and figure it out yourself. This is not rocket science. This is pretty simple stuff.
We are losing sight of just, and that is all, everything we do need, but we are losing sight of that when you say that you don't want the kids or the parents dismissing this Regents exam, or Regents. This in particular, Regents, was by every account of every algebra teacher, of every principal, of that this was an unfair, irrelevant measure of what they learned in their coursework. So it's
right. And that goes back to issue 2, because there are definitely 2 issues. We have a macro issue as far as the state and the inappropriateness of the conversion chart, which anybody could look at it and line them up for sure. And that, I think, was a good idea, how everybody reached out. But then we have on the micro level of what Rockville Center is going to do for my son and your daughter and your sons and daughters. So what we're saying here is that if it hurts the grade, then the average will be somehow written in as weighted.
No, the average
GPA.
for algebra, no, there's 2 things. Let's talk about GPA. GPA is a compilation of all of the different grades.
Through junior year.
All right? Then you have the algebra grade and you have the geometry grade. The 2 grades that were affected by the Regents exams are the algebra grade and the geometry grade. We can fix them. They can be adjusted. When then you fold them into the GPA, I can tell you that they make less than 0.1% different. The differences in the GPA are really minimal. However, that does not mean that a point might make a difference on the actual algebra, and that's what we're saying. On the algebra exam, when you begin to fold this in, and in 8th grade it counts as 1/9, the other Regents exams count as 1/10. So that when you fold that into the calculation, on average, the difference between what they might have gotten with the exam, the difference usually is somewhere between 5 and 9 points. So that difference of 5 to 9 points.
From new conversion chart to old conversion chart?
I can apply the 16 conversion chart to the 15 data.
But if you're going old test, well,
No, you can't, no, wait, there are 2 separate tests. There's one that was based upon the 2007 standards.
2005 standards.
2005.
Right, 2005.
All right, and then there was one that was built on the Common Core.
Right.
All right?
But that differential is closer to 15. Oh, Hicksville, by the way, you left Hicksville out. They also gave the old and the new.
They
Sorry,
did.
I'm running through my
Hicksville did what?
I was under the impression that Hicksville gave the old and the new also. I was also under the impression New York City did, but that's a conversation for another day. But old to new is a 15-point differential from what administrators who gave both tests said. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't want to leave him out. I know that he's here.
When you say a 15-point differential,
Between integrated algebra and Common Core.
that was not our experience. Pardon me?
It was huge. It's like their average throughout the year was, 90, 90. I have twins. 90, 90, 90. And on that Regents, it was, 66.
Again,
Look, I'm not suggesting by any stretch of the imagination
obviously mine included.
that it was that the test that you're talking about was in fact there are two things that we're talking about. One is the test itself. The real problem was with the scoring of that test. The tests that have replaced it since then have been modified somewhat, but not significantly, and they are still Common Core exams.
Yes.
So that the test that was given to the kids in 2016 and will again be given this year in 2017 are more like that 2015. The difference is how they are scored. And it is not that they are scored either right or wrong. That's not the issue. It is what are the conversion scores. If I get a raw score of 72, what does it equate to on a scale of 100? It's those conversion scores that got screwed up on the 2015 exam.
Yes, on a global issue, on a statewide issue, on a local issue for our children. Our kids are being compared against kids from neighboring schools that either took integrated from the 25 curriculum and the new Common Core, were able to keep the higher score, or had it removed completely from their transcript. So what I do listen, I think it's great, you should all email on a global scale. If we could affect change, that would be fantastic. But on a local scale, I think before we all leave, it would be nice to see some specifics on not how we're going to get our 2015 kids to match the 2016 conversion chart, because that's a different cohort. It's a different cohort for applying to summer programs. It's a different cohort for applying to colleges, because the kids are a year younger. My son in Rockville Center should not look different than the students I taught in Malvern, or his neighbors in Oceanside, or his neighbors in Jericho.
Right. But he took the course, did he not?
Yes.
All right, he got a score each quarter.
Yes.
All right. At the end of the year, we calculate a final grade.
Right.
We incorporate the Regents exam in that grade. Now, it either moves it up or down. And what we're saying is that it's not going to move it down.
Okay, then.
So the grade that they get for the 4 quarters can only be adjusted up, not down.
All right, so I think we're that was one issue, in my opinion.
Come on.
That was definitely one micro. So, and we'll have a date, and we could all look at that to see how that
We will
goes.
be very happy to share all of that with you. Okay.
Hi, good evening.
I can give you example. You want to come in and meet with us, we'll be very happy.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea
Yeah,
to have
a really good idea.
some parents make an appointment with you.
Either that or I'll do a presentation here at the next board meeting.
Well, I just know,
Okay.
I think it would be better to have them see you, because here we can't talk about specifics of their kids, but in your
I can
office they
go
can.
student A, student B, student C. I mean, I can do that, Mark.
Maybe we can include Chris, too, in that meeting.
But that doesn't get to the real issue. The
No,
real
I
issue is
understand.
the exam that I don't have to include in my average is going to still appear on the transcript.
That's
my next question. Yes, I have a feeling this
Back
is...
to her discussion, right, so it's great that we're going to pull it out of the average for the class and the GPA, perfect. But the other portion is a huge issue, is that my kid's grade, which was horrific, is now listed on the regions, and it's obviously out of whack with all of his other regions. I heard you say that it's a New York State requirement. Are we required on our transcripts that we have to show those?
Yep.
Okay, so back to now the districts that gave the algebra, old, if that's right, integrated. So now those kids are all gonna have like 98, and our kids, we have 80% of our districts got in the 70s. My question is I need somebody to figure that out, because now my kid who's competing for the same colleges in Oceanside versus the kids in Oceanside and Jericho and Syosset and all the other schools, those kids don't have a 70-something. And that is putting our kids at a severe disadvantage. Severe. We need that solved. I mean, it's great that you're able to do something on a local level for our GPA, but you guys, they have to figure out something for us. And I think it's very unfair that those other districts...
Have you shared your thoughts with Roger Tillis?
I did, of course. In January, when you guys emailed us, or Mr. Murphy, I sent my letter
This is a
off.
this is not an issue that I'm going to be able to solve with this Board of Education. It cannot be solved here in Rockville Center. This is a statewide issue that has to be solved at the state level. One, the state gave those 6 school districts permission to use that exam. I don't know how they managed to get permission to do that. It is a mystery to me, all right? 6 school districts in the state. Then, you're right. Those kids' numbers are going to be on there, and they will be higher than kids in Rockville Center. That's not fair. I agree with you. So how do we fix that?
Right, new conversion.
How do we fix that?
No, it's not, the new conversion's not enough, because integrated to Common Core is not a 6 or 7 point conversion.
From what I'm hearing, it's a state fix, and they have to be able to say that we are going to take the scores that these kids had on this exam, and this is what we're going to say that you can do to them. And it has to come from what I'm hearing, it has to come from them. You know, we can't wave a magic eraser here and say, okay, let's take this one out and let's put on another commensurate grade.
Okay.
Dr. Johnson, you spoke with the commissioner today, did you not? I don't know if you had a chance to, or did she call you, or I know you were going to attempt to.
They're working on it.
Okay.
I did.
Okay.
Oh, I just want one last question. Is the geometry also in our, like...
Yes.
To me, I view the geometry as well as the algebra. I want to make sure that we're on the same page at this
The problem that you just described
Yes,
is unique to algebra.
right.
By the time these kids got around to taking geometry, and the same problem came up, the state did not allow those 6 districts
Right.
to do it again.
There was no memo. There was a memo that came out in 2014, December 2014. Because when I first brought this up, everyone said, oh, wait a minute, I brought this up a year ago. There was no memo in December of 2012. I tell you, I also think it is more than 6. I guess maybe I'll call the state. Because I have a friend who works in New York City, and she said the accelerated 8th grade students took it as well. I know you let kids go off the list, and I'm pretty certain that they did as well. There was no memo in for the geometry test.
Wait, New York City is unique because they teach it on a semester basis, and they teach it over 2 years. So there are some kids who took it in 15.
What you had to do to qualify
No, wait, just...
teach any algebra prior to 8th grade. And any mommy who helps the kids with homework knows that algebra does and should start prior to 8th grade. That's how...
We start in 4th, so
Right.
I understand
Based
that.
on that and the December 2014 memo, we should have been given.
That's not what the interpretation of the state was when we explained it to them. They told us very clearly it was not part of the course, and we could not do it.
Exactly.
All right? I'm just telling you, they're talking out of 2 sides of their face. If they gave the school district permission to do it, they did not give us permission to do it. We were very much aware of the issue at the time. We tried our best to figure out a way in order to get our kids advantaged and in a position to take the exam. We were told very clearly, you cannot. I'm sorry. I mean, it wasn't that we didn't do our homework, and it wasn't that we don't know people in the state to call. We did, in fact, make those calls.
Right, cutting edge, right.
Pardon me?
I said we usually are cutting edge.
No, I don't want to say that we're cutting edge, but okay, not in this situation, we feel very, very much violated by this. That's all I'm telling you.
Yes, I know Plainview, that page is very public. They also feel quite violated and complain to the state right away. My problem is when I first brought it to the district, I was told nobody else gave it. And I had to spend some time proving that the other districts gave it.
No, that's right, because nobody believed that they could have done it.
Believed me, yes.
Right.
I remember it, I know.
Okay. Not by me.
No.
No, I only do that in public.
It wasn't me, was it?
It wasn't me either, right? It wasn't me.
I just have a question. So Alana brought up that the geometry regions, that there was stuff on that exam that they were never taught. I have triplets. They all have very high averages, and they have very good math scores. One of the teachers in one of the classes that one of my children was taking it in said, when she saw the exam, she said, we never covered this. And my child heard the teacher say they never covered this in there. Yeah, I mean, they heard it, right, they heard it in the classroom. We had the tutor they had, just to cover for the Regents, was an old Rockville Center teacher. So she never covered it with them, and she doesn't even teach in our district anymore. She teaches in another Long Island district. So aside from that, we have this problem that now happened with geometry. How do we know this isn't going to happen to them again on the Regents they're going to take this year? Because 2 years in a row, they took the exam for math that they were not taught stuff that was on it. And now we're going to go to a 3rd year in a row, and the same thing's going to happen. How are our children not being taught the stuff that's on there?
I'm on the phone.
And where is this curriculum?
I'm on the phone every 2 weeks. I work with the State Ed Department on, Sam, Lorna Lewis, who is the superintendent of the Plainview Old Bethpage School District, and I co-chair a statewide curriculum committee. We meet every 2 weeks with the State Education Department, and we meet, for the most part, with the testing people during this school year. Our first and foremost issue has been exactly this group of kids. You cannot do it again to these kids. So that we're very, very much aware of what happened with these kids when they were either freshmen or, in our case, 8th grade. And now having the opportunity to take this third test, they've sworn up and down, left and right, that they fixed it.
That we won't give them stuff that they weren't taught?
Yeah, but we don't.
Look,
And it's nothing against our school. That's why I'm telling you, a teacher from another district who was their tutor didn't cover it either because it just wasn't covered in their curriculum. So I don't know how
There was trig on the algebra regions, and there was pre-calculus on the geometry regions, both which weren't taught to these kids. A lot of other stuff that wasn't taught. And these kids, and I tell you, firsthand experience, and I know all the kids who's, the parents here, these kids now have test anxiety. Regions hate and test anxiety. I mean, these tests have damaged these kids. They have lost it. They are working. If you drove home the day after the day of that Regents, you would have just passed pretty much every 8th grader going home and walking home crying, boys, girls, whatever. And kids shut down mid-exam, so half of them didn't even finish it. I mean, we cannot do it again. And
I agree with you 100%. What the state did was very wrong.
Twice.
We've tried, yes, twice. Yes.
geometry is almost as bad.
Yes, twice.
We should get the same day too together.
Does this next one have to go in the transcript? Algebra 2, I don't.
If you take the exam, and our kids, for the most part, yes, it will be on their transcript. If they take it and take the Regents, it will be on their transcript.
Wayne Fitzgerald, 27 South Lewis Place. I just have a stepping back question. What's the penalty for non-compliance? Like you have control over the transcript, you have control over the system. Why can't we just put NAV? Like what's the penalty for, I've heard unanimous commentary here that we had a bad test, we had an unfair test. Why can't we just be non-compliant, put a mark on the transcript, NAV, or leave it blank? And I realize that may violate a rule, but what's the penalty for non-compliance?
The college is going to call and say, what's this all about? And how are you going to answer them?
Better, we'll be able to tell the story.
I don't know what the penalty will be. We can look into that, but I'm pretty sure it goes back to the colleges. We'll take the transcript and send it back and say, where's the information?
It's incomplete.
But you put NAV on it, there's no Regents program in North Carolina. A North Carolina transcript is going to look different than a New York transcript, and we're going to have different transcripts than what Chaminade's doesn't look like ours, and we've got different scores from different school districts. It seems like you could just put NAV on the, not available, not applicable, leave it blank.
I know Mr. Murphy spoke about his speaking to several of the colleges. I think particularly, Noreen, you were part of that conversation today, the SUNY schools and several other private schools, insofar as if you received a transcript with no grade attached to a Regents, and then you had a transcript with a grade attached to a Regents, what would be, how would you choose between those two?
I think that the high school interviewed, it looked like maybe 15 different colleges, and they asked a specific question. Would the absence of the Regents grades on the transcript be a detriment to our students? That's how they asked the question. And across the board, with the exception of one school, they all said yes, it would be a detriment. That's the word they used. It would be a detriment to students. And the reason is this, and I have a counseling background, and I also did field admissions work for my alma mater. So I have some sense of what admissions counselors the questions they would ask. And certainly they don't have Regents in North Carolina. That's true. In fact, New York State is I think, left with the Regents. But colleges, all colleges, not just the SUNY colleges, but the more competitive private schools, know that New York State has the Regents program. So the lack of that information would be telling. I do think that something has to be done, preferably but in the state level, so there's a common note on the transcript or a common explanation to all schools for that cohort when they apply to schools. But something has to be done to just put an asterisk and a note on that transcript to very, very clearly explain for all intents and purposes, the number should be disregarded. And as a admissions counselor, they will do that math in their head if they see that explained across the board. That doesn't bring a lot of comfort to the students that are really top students and high 90s average, and they see a 70-something. I understand that. But it is really going to have to be the solution in terms of going forward. And I do think how that information not being there will make a difference when it comes to their college admissions. It will make things much more complicated. It will add more complication than solution to the problem.
I can think of one example, and it seems like ancient history, but it happened to me and Melissa. 1989, Chemistry Regents was printed on the cover of the New York Post, and that year we showed up for the test and they said, you don't have to take the test because it's been stolen. And we all cheered because that year I still have not taken the Chemistry Regents. I went to college, my transcript was fine, no one questioned it. I don't know what.
Do you know what happened?
What? Yeah. Please, let's.
Yeah, I remember the year that happened. All right? It was. It wasn't a graduation requirement. So it didn't have the same import that it does today. In other words, there's only one graduation right now. Everybody graduates with a Regents diploma in New York. In those days, it was optional, you know that. So it had less of an import than it does today. So I may be missing some of the nuance of why it was not as important, why they could cancel the whole thing. But that was, I remember that. Good God, yeah.
But this is equally as epic. This is huge for these kids. They remember it as the day I cried on my.
Well, obviously you remember. I mean, this is not something, right.
No, I mean, but even.
Look, what we cannot minimize is the impact that this has had on these kids' lives. And I think that really has to be the message that we convey to the state. The gravity of this situation is that, we made a mistake. We need to rectify that mistake. We cannot hurt these kids as they go off to college and leave us. We need to fix it now so that when they are leaving us and going off to their next level of education, they are not going to be disadvantaged. That is the message that we need to get across to our regent, Tillis, and anybody in the State Education Department who will listen to us at this point.
Somehow confused.
Pardon me?
I'm glad we're on board with the complaint.
Listen, I'm really glad you brought it up. Please don't let it go away. I mean, I feel sometimes like I've been shouting in the wind and that there aren't a whole lot of people behind us on this thing. And I must tell you, people see me coming and they run the other way because I have harped on this issue over and over and over again. I don't want to see it minimized. I need your voices of support. The passion that you bring to this meeting is exactly the passion that somebody like Roger Tillis needs to sense, to feel, to taste. He's got to know it's there.
Other school districts that haven't given the 210, are they having these discussions? Do they care? I mean, I know you speak to other superintendents. Are they talking as adamant as we are? And I think it's got to come from, and you have been working like crazy talking to the state, but as parents, I mean, that us calling and
the reason for setting up, I know Kathy's sitting right here. We set this up because what we really wanted to do was to open it up to the Nassau County PTAs and the parents. If you have parents in other school districts that you know about, you really need to give them the opportunity to convey this as well.
We did. We sent that to Garden City, and
I don't remember if it was Floral Park, we forwarded it to PTA presidents and asked them to do the same thing that we sent out to the high school, Southside parents, and you guys...
You know, maybe one of the reasons why, I mean, you took a look at a transcript, and all of a sudden, it's like it smacks you in the face.
I've been emailing the state and the BOCES, which I was told to do, and got very lame replies saying there's nothing, the tests are done, there's no changes. I have never stopped, and my daughter has been on top of it too. She, you know, when a kid emails immediately after things and calls, and I literally spent the entire...
So you know what, look, let's go back to what was said before. Why don't you guys come in? I'll show you exactly how we're going to fix it here. Maybe we need to map out a much more coordinated strategy between among us to make sure that this thing changes. Pardon me?
Can we sue the state? I'm serious. With a class action.
I sued the state once before, and we were the only... So this won't be the first time they've heard from us. Years ago, they made this very similar mistake with physics, and we sued. And even though we lost in court on a technicality, we won with the regents. They changed it. They forced them to go back and redo it. Pardon me?
It's time to do that. I mean,
We may.
you're successful and you're in a similar situation. I mean, you've been working on it for 2 years with them and they don't seem to be budging.
New York State
We're starting to, like, time's running out.
Yeah, time is running out.
To me, time's running out.
Okay. As Dr. Johnson suggested, either make an appointment with him to come in, but certainly this is a topic which is going to continue to be on our agendas for the next 30 days.
Look, why don't we make it for like the week after the vacation? What we'll do is, if you call tomorrow, I'll make sure Chris and John Murphy are there with me, and we'll talk strategically exactly. And you know, what I may ask you to do, and even though I'll white it all out, is really show them what a transcript looks like. When you see all of the grades, and that they're all in the 90s, and you end up with a 73 on this thing, I'll tell you right now that if I'm an admissions counselor, I'm going to look at that and say, whoops, what the hell happened here? And if I have 2 kids who are equal on every other way except this, who's going to get the shot? And that's really the concern that I have. That's what I have said to them. That's what I have described to them as the issue, so that it's not that we're unaware of it. Right now, I know I'm speaking to people in the state who are sympathetic to us and understand this thing. I'm not sure why they couldn't do anything psychometrically, but we can't let them off the hook on this particular dimension of it. So I'll work with you on it. Come on in, and we'll figure this thing out together. All right? So.
Okay, thank you all for coming. Moving on to the budget of 17 and 18.
The audience is dwindling.
Just start.
You know what, Robert, you have 5 seconds. I took up all the time.
Okay.
I sucked all the wind out of the room. Go ahead.
Just a quick update on the budget. We are at a 2.92% budget increase with a tax levy increase of 0.75%, which is under the tax cap. I think we have one outstanding issue from the last meeting. We were discussing staffing, and that's permanent substitutes. We had talked about increasing possibly our permanent subs at the elementary schools by 1 each, at the middle school by 3, and at high school by 2. We've been looking very closely at the daily average absences in each building for the last couple of years. We're going to modify that slightly to request an increase of 3 at the middle school. We are still having that large number of absences there, and 1 at the high school, with no increase in permanent subs at the elementary schools.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on the board? Anyone from the audience have questions pertaining to the budget?
I'm going to
sorry.
just jump in, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. At our last meeting, Dr. Johnson, some of the principals brought up some issues with FLES. Do you have any more thoughts on that?
Look, we have discussions about revising staffing, schedules, programs internally every year. We take a look at different ways in which we can configure things. I think what we need to assure the community is that for the 17-18 school year, FLES is not going to change. We are committed to the program that we currently have in place. We are going to do it the same way we've done it in the past. The same level of service is going to be provided. The one dimension, I mean, this is the first opportunity, and I think I mentioned this at the end of that meeting, for us to really begin to take a look at these kids as they enter their junior year, their junior and senior year, just to see what kind of proficiency they have and whether or not there's any difference between them and their predecessors. As I said at that meeting, I'll get back to you. I know that we are forever revisiting it, but this is one of those critical years that we consider to be very important for us. That junior and senior year are very important. So we're going to take a look at it. But you need to understand, I have no intention whatsoever of recommending to the board at this time that we make any modification or change to the program for next year.
Okay, good. Thank you.
One comment that came out from the principals was the scheduling of a 30-minute period and a 40-minute day. Is that something we can look in and see what the cost ramifications would be, if there are any?
If I can tell you right now, the reason why we do 30 minutes is that we live within the budget that we have. And if we go to 40 minutes on the same day-to-day schedule, what ultimately happens is you increase the staff. If you do it on a twice-a-week basis, then in fact what you do is we cut back staff. I'm not about to reduce our commitment at this point. Kids enjoy it. Any observation that I've ever had while I was a witness in any of those classes, I invite any of you guys to go in and take a look at it. Kids really enjoy it. It's a fun experience for them when they're there. And even though it's only 30 minutes in length, I would love to have had it go 40 minutes, but we never had the staff to do it, and I never came back and asked for more.
Okay.
The problem is, look, I know why they brought it up, and I don't want to minimize it in any way. Everything else is on for the most part, a 40 or a 50-minute schedule. This is the one thing that stands out because it's on that 30-minute schedule. So you're layering schedules on top of one another, and it makes life somewhat more complicated. We tried to ease that because we said that everybody had to stay in place. So the regular classroom teacher doesn't go, they're not assigned anything else. We always kept everybody in place, and the only person that moved was the person who was scheduled into that classroom at that time. So we were able to minimize its impact, and so there wasn't a shuffling around of kids or to different locations. Teachers didn't leave. So everything stayed in place, and so we were able to layer it on top. But it's still something of an inconvenience, and it's not necessarily in sync with the way we do a lot of other things in the schools.
Also, just wanted to go over the timeline. The next budget issue is the preliminary budget hearing, which is April 20th. That's the last time we have a chance to make a change to the budget. After that, we will have a formal budget hearing at May 3rd, which is a requirement from the state to have that meeting. We cannot make any changes to the budget at that time. And then May 16th will be the actual budget vote and annual election. That's our timeline.
Okay. The other thing is that many of you may have heard that the state legislature and the governor have reached an agreement as of today, but to our knowledge, they have not yet come down with the details. So that would give us a little better understanding of where our state aid numbers are going to fall. I'm sure that it will be reported in the papers in the next day or two. Anybody from the public have anything that they would like to say pertaining to the budget? If so, please come on up. Okay. Moving on to board actions. I think we can do this by acclamation with the PAR and the addendum.
Yep, go ahead. Yes, we can.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. Change orders? Robbie, we asked for some detail on the change order, but additional smoke doors required for code compliant egress during construction of the south addition,
Yes.
$23,000.
Yes,
What happens to the doors now that they're down?
they're just down, they're removed.
Do we at least own the door for $23,000?
I
Did
believe
that
the
go back
doors
to the contract?
were put back in different locations. I believe all those doors were reutilized.
Can we look into that?
Yes.
For $23,000. I have another one if I should.
On eBay.
Yeah.
Irwin change order number 21. Make a temporary exit at East End main hallway permanent.
Yes.
Include new doors, concrete ramp, and walkway. So did they build the ramp and put the doors in temporary while they were doing construction? And then what, they back charge us for doing that work?
No, it was just a temporary exit that was planned to go in there. There wasn't going to be a ramp, there wasn't going to be anything. We asked them to make it a permanent exit.
But the ramp-
The original design was that was not going to be an exit, that part of the building was going to be closed because we have another exit right here.
That
So-
ramp, though, went in right away. It wasn't something...
No, went in right away. We asked them to put that in. That was
Okay.
not originally designed
I
in.
still am amazed that a change order comes years later. I don't understand the process of that.
Catching up on paperwork.
Well, it's catching up on paperwork, it's ongoing arguing over how much it actually costs. We have our construction managers and architects go back and forth, and they negotiate, a number of different issues as they're going through all of these.
Okay, those are my only two. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have questions?
Yeah, the contract with Malloy College to accept student nurses, what are our student nurses following our school nurses?
Yes, the program we've had for about 4 years now, where Tara Algerio-Vento mentors anywhere from about 6 to 12 student nurses each semester. They rotate through all our schools and they get a school nursing experience.
Very nice.
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A motion to return to executive session for the purposes of contracts and negotiation.
So moved?
Second.
Thank you all for coming.
Chair.